precious treasury of compassion, bestower of supreme inner peace. You who love all beings without exception, are the source of happiness and goodness, and you guide us to the liberating path. Your body is a wish-fulfilling jewel. Your speech is supreme purifying nectar, and your mind is refuge for all living beings. With folded hands I turn to you, supreme, unchanging friend. I request from the depths of my heart, please give me the light of your wisdom to dispel the darkness of my mind and to heal my mental continuum. Please nourish me with your goodness, that I in turn may nourish all beings with an unceasing banquet of delight. Through your compassion and intention, your blessings and virtuous deeds, and my strong wish to rely upon you, may all suffering quickly cease, and all happiness and joy be fulfilled, and may holy Dharma flourish forevermore.
So that is one of the ways that one can enter into meditation, through the recollection of holy beings, through the recollection, he says, of devas. Just turning, when you think about somebody that you love and you turn your mind towards them, it puts you in a certain zone. You shift just affectionately, thinking about them. There's a kind of joy that arises when you think about your spouse or someone that you love. And I say spouse because with children, there's a sense of duty. There's a sense of your responsibility to care for them. But with a grown person, a lot of stuff comes with that. You can't, they're not so much within your control. So you have to take the good with the bad, the ugly with the beautiful. So when you do turn your affection upon them, it has to be stupendous to override all of their ugliness, all the other stuff that comes with it. That's how you know you love them, because there's something that wells up in you that overrides the ugliness. So just think that if this is how it is in a worldly sense, this is how we can understand spiritual principles, because they operate here in the world. So if one wanted one's mind to be at ease, if one wanted to lay down all of the burdens that they hold, all of the concerns that they hold, all of uh, what better way to do it than to turn their minds towards something that brings such a sweetness, such an ease, such a forward-looking, uh, um, such a forward-moving heart. Like of all the places I could be right now, I'd rather be with you. Something like that. That's what makes you go home every day, because you want to be with those that you love. So if you can understand that in an ordinary, uh, worldly way, then you can also understand the benefit of it, of turning your affection upon those that you consider overcomers, foe destroyers, uh, those who have surmounted the adversities and the vicissitudes of life, you know, because that's your part of your goal, part of your objective. The ones who have penetrated a reality and really understand the nature of things, ones who have overcome their uh, uh, the habitual tendencies that thwart us so that the good we would do, we don't do. And what we don't want to do, we end up doing. Those, just the recollection of them does something in releasing the heart so that there can be a kind of inner stabilization. So meditation is designed for that. It's not like relaxation the way we think of relaxation, but it's more like all hearts and minds are clear. For this moment, everything I can lay it down, lay it all down for this moment. Come to a place of pause. A place of peace is a place of pause. Place of pause is a place of silence. And in this silence, everything, it, in the beginning, everything sort of freezes. You have like like sometimes the TV glitches or the computer glitches, and it like it gets frozen for a second. It's like that. It shifts. It stops the movement. It stops the movement of the mind. Just like on like a gerbil on a treadmill. It just stops. Later, it settles. It powers down. Ah, I used to talk about the Prius and how I never had one, but I would love it because Maureen has one, and she would take me places when she comes to visit, and I loved how we would like go up to a stoplight, and the thing would just power down. That's it. I mean, you hear the car running, car running, car running. It sits at the light and it just powers down. Like it's not running. Light turns green, she puts her foot on the gas, and it goes. It just powers back up. That capacity to power down, to conserve energy, to suspend activity. Meditation is kind of like that. But that's just one side of it. And if we only abide in that one side, then we will miss its capacity for usage. Like what happens when the light turns green? You know, do we have to start it up and get it going again? No, we don't. So if meditation just shuts us down, then we've only understood half of what it is about, because it frees up the energy. It frees us up to be able to clarify, to be able to penetrate deeply the issues of life. Whatever we choose to focus on, we can get clarity. So that means we're not actively using the mind, the mind consciousness to clarify, but we are taking the mind consciousness out of the way so that we can see clearly now, because the mind consciousness is it's biased, it's brainwashed, it's been informed by things, and so that's why it thinks the way it does. Yeah. And we have to move beyond even that. So reality is not something that, in this sense, that we are, don't mix, don't mix these. Reality is something that's there. It's there. It's not something we are creating in the sense that we have so much to do with it, but it's there, and it's about being able to see it, because all of the clutter and the interference is out of the way. So instead of relaxing, there comes a sharpness, there comes a clarity, a penetration into the nature of how things actually are, or even how something is. We won't say the nature of how things are, what is that? But how something is, the nature, you can penetrate to the nature of how something is. What thing? Anything that comes to the mind. So it's very difficult to use the mind to perceive the nature of the mind, to see the nature of the mind. That's like saying, well, we need darkness to be able to see darkness. It, I mean, it doesn't make any sense, really, if you think about it. But what we need is something that would be akin to light, so that we could perceive things. More light shed on the situation. More light in this sense, meaning more brightness, so that you can clearly see and define, that you can see distinctions, and things become clarified. They become understood in a way that it informs the mind, so that the mind can say, aha, now I understand. So it's hard to use the mind to understand the mind. It takes something else. Meditation is an encounter with that kind of luminosity that sheds light, so that the mind can see more clearly what is what. So if we understand it in that way, we stop trying to make something happen, in meditation, and rather we make ourselves 100% available to be impacted upon. So that's a different way. Now we're not struggling, trying to make something happen. We're not struggling, trying to quiet our minds. We're not struggling really to do anything. And we're also not relaxing. It's the right amount of, of tension. And the trick in meditation is finding that right amount of tension, not too slack, not too tight. The thing is that when we find it in meditation, we kind of know where it is. You know, like where do I keep my favorite pen? It's in the desk in Kay's room. That's where that is. I know where it is. I can go and get it at any time because I know where I keep it placed, where it has I know where it's stored. I know where to find it. When we develop a regular meditation practice, we start to know where that space is so we can go at any time and retrieve its product of peace, its product is clarity. We can go and retrieve it, make use of it, activate it at any time. Not just when we're sitting, that's the training part, you know. But when we actually need it, so an attainment then is something that has been perfected to the degree that you can make use of it, that it can serve its purpose in. So those two go together, attainment and usages. This idea of nowhere to go and nothing to do is a truism, but it has its place. In the beginning, there is somewhere to go and there is something to do. But once you've done that, then it's nowhere to go and nothing to do. So we don't start with nowhere to go and nothing to do. We arrive at it through layers, you know, through dropping off, I'll say, layers of ignorance until we arrive at a place of clarity. Then we can see that there's nowhere to go and there's nothing to do. Why? Because we've gone there and we've done what needed to be done. So our first idea is to struggle to try to get into a place, to get in, so we struggle. And somebody has to say, don't put forth, don't use too much efforting, because in over efforting, you can't make any progress. After a while, when we get tired, we start saying, don't put in too much efforting, because that's our excuse now when we get weary or when we get tired or when we want to like check out and go do some other things for a while. Then we start pulling that one. Well, you shouldn't try too hard. All work and no play makes John a dull boy. So that's how the mind is. So whenever something comes to my mind, you know what I do? I start thinking of what's the opposite That's why some of y'all, I know you think I'm flaky and wishy-washy, but that's my process of analysis. First thing that comes to my mind, the first thought, I don't disregard it, but I don't really, I can't really trust it and act on it because I haven't reflected on it. It's just it came to me. It came to me, and my mind, when it brings it brings all of the hoped for benefits of that thought. But then I wait to see if anything else floats up to the top. It might be, yeah, that's good, but this. So then I don't even do it on the second one. I wait some more. And then something comes up and it says, yeah, could be good. And this as well. And sometimes I have to wait till the fourth time that I reflect upon it. And then sometimes I realize that the first time that I reflected upon it, I didn't realize that I was looking very subtly to see what was the benefit. What's the benefit for being this? What's the benefit for me? The second time, I was like, yes, there's some benefit for me, but what's the benefit for others, for so and so, or for which one is the most important in this matter, in this circumstance? You have to ask all of those questions. Meditation brings clarity to situations. And we can't even believe, what's his name? Maureen's husband? Richard. He talks about he realized that there's a mind behind his mind. And then suddenly something stirs deep down inside. Getting to that mind behind the mind. So there is a mind behind the human mind consciousness. And that's what we're opening up to. One reason that I like, and it is recommended, that we turn this mind consciousness, or we move it into a state that's conducive to being open to the mind behind the mind. So the criticizing mind, the fearful and worrying mind, the guilty conscience mind, the doubtful mind, all of those have to be subdued, and they get subdued by the attitude in which we go into this practice of meditation until it morphs into true meditation. So you could say that it's a practice, but in reality, that's just a method for getting into meditate, the state of meditation. And we say the state, but within the state are a kabillion different states. It's just like, I consider this one body, but I got trillions of cells that make this one body. All I have to do is think of my body. That's why he was saying, like, you know, not only is this body the laboratory, he said that if you just turn your mind to a body contemplation, everything you need to know, you could realize through contemplation of the body. It tells you everything you need to know about how to unpack reality. But that's not intellectual enough for us. You know, we need other stuff. We need to have other kinds of facts, um, and theories and hypotheses and um, projections and we need all of these kinds of things for it to be um, valid and valuable for us. So it feels almost like we're wasting our time if we just sit. But if we changed our understanding of what just sit means and what it can yield along the lines of the conversation that we are having right now, we could appreciate its benefit, but not only appreciate its benefit, because we appreciate its benefit, we could enter into its fruit. So how you think about meditation is really, really important. And we can break meditation down, the first part being concentration, right? And the second part being contemplation. And then there is the appearance or the fruit, which is movement into different states. So we should know then the difference in learning concentration and contemplation. Concentration is being in a state of imperturbability or that which cannot be disturbed. When you're concentrating on something, it's more than just looking at it. It's more than just thinking about it. There is a single pointed focus. So much so that it captures all of your attention. To the exclusion of the wandering of the sense bases. Like we talk about multitasking, but actually we don't really multitask. We just think we are multitasking, you know. But we're actually scattered, and concentration is about bringing all of it into a single point until it refines, and even that single point then is gone. So you could think of it as, for instance, like right now, we're getting concentrated. Even as I'm speaking, we're becoming concentrated, unless you're worrying about what's on the stove in the kitchen.
Oh, I'm done. I'm with you.
But we know we are getting concentrated, don't we? Can't you tell that we're really paying attention to the subject matter at hand? And in paying attention, we're bringing all of our bases, gathering all of our bases, and you can feel it. Now, you're focused up here. So I could say that you're more concentrated than I am, because I'm looking. And so I have a differentiated mind, right now, because I'm also focusing outwardly on each one, to make sure that you're getting it. Now, sometimes I will leave you and that's when I'm sort of like looking off into the distance, because I'm so intent upon being a participant in what's arising that I can't hold my attention on you individually. That means that's the byproduct of my concentration on what the subject matter is. It becomes difficult. So on one hand, you're trying to stay connected with who you're talking to. But the more you enter into the subject matter or into the field of what you're talking about, it starts to cut the people away, or anything. Whatever that little nagging voice is in the back of your head around that particular thing that you're worrying about, that you forgot about for a little while, but now it starts to come back here and there. But the more you fasten to, it's a fastening to the subject, tethering to, the more single-minded, single-focused you become. And in that process, sorry, it's one thing to talk about something, it's another thing to enter. Get back to it. Um, I tell you what happens is that the aggregates begin to settle down. They can't act. They can't arise, So you don't have to try to put them down. They just become irrelevant. That there's an opening into a space of And it's so vast and still. That there is nothing in our saha experience, our worldly experience, that compares to it, that can hold, that can hold you.
I have a question, Venerable,
Yeah.
because, yeah, because when you're in your process of becoming concentrated and you're using thoughts essentially to direct your concentration towards a certain object, is that not contemplation? I'm sorry, I'm a little confused about what that process is.
Okay, so I haven't even gotten to contemplation.
Right, because I'm thinking about the body, right? They call it the contemplation of the body. So like how I've always approached it is you contemplate the body to enter into concentration. So I'm slightly confused. And is it
No.
mindfulness of the body instead of contemplation?
I wouldn't say that you contemplate to enter into concentration.
Okay,
I would say you have to have a degree of concentration to contemplate. Right.
it's just
And
like,
I'm gonna define,
okay,
because I think it's very important, it's extremely important to not be confused
Yeah.
about this. You know, if you're a little wishy-washy about this one issue, it can keep you rolling around on the periphery forever, forever. You can never get there. But so understand that the first step is to try to concentrate the mind. Once you learn how, follow a methodology by which you awaken, I would say awaken to concentration,
okay,
then you can use any number, there an innumerable number of objects that one can then concentrate upon for different purposes, for different things. Um, uh, and so I had brought different books, for instance, in The Path to Purification, the Visuddhimagga. They train on 40 different meditation objects, you know, and they do different things. That's just the Theravadins. You know, if you go to some of the Mahayana objects of contemplation, or the Vajrayana Yidam practices, deities to concentrate upon, it is bringing that the first it's visualizing that perfection external to you, and then taking on or bringing that perfection into you until one sees oneself abiding in that same state of perfection. And as a man thinks, what? So is he. Yeah, in that, so that one, so that's a method, you see. It's a practice of working with the mind. I mean, you know when you go against your own mind. You know when you go against your own consciousness. But if you had an idea of what perfection of virtue was, and you kept contemplating that perfection of virtue until one could really hold and idea or image of perfection and then impute it on yourself and rest in it for a while, there would be no way you could not become anything but perfection. But it's because we can't do that we roll around in imperfection, because imperfection is all in our mind. So these practices are designed to work with different minds, different ways that people are, different ways that people think, different ways that people understand. You don't have to know all of these different methods. All you have to do is find the right one for you. In times past, they would say, seek out your teacher for a meditation object, for the right one for you. And if a high level teacher would know and would give you one, but nowadays people will come to the teacher and say, I want this one. Oh, I know me. This is what I absolutely want. This is what I absolutely want to do. But in those days, they really sought out the teacher for an option. And if the teacher didn't know, then the teacher could kind of get an idea of what might be useful based on what the teacher knew about one's personality and tendencies. Now, the student and the teacher might have disagreed on the teacher's assessment of the person's personality, and mannerisms and habitual tendencies. So it's all of these things. There's so many layers of submission that's required that our egos just won't allow us to do. And so we don't enter. We don't enter in. We handle this like we handle everything. And that's why the Buddha would say when one came to him, I'm the one that knows. You don't know. So if one came to him with the I know, and this is what I need for you, he just left them with that. He just left them with it. But when they came, willing to receive some instruction and work with it, then they found that they would have benefit, or they could come back and say, this worked good, but this happened, this came to mind. That's what, when you go into a meditation retreat, and you have your interview with the teacher, is to discuss what came up for you in that meditation, see if something needs to be tweaked or adjusted. And then you go back in the next set following the advice of the meditation master. So one has to have some mastery in meditation, some familiarity with the field, some accomplishment of process to be able to guide you. You do. Okay, so I want to go back to concentration so we understand what concentration is. It's arousing the energy, it's having the determination to bring all of your attention and awareness to the activity at hand. It's to make oneself available to to engagement with life beyond the fabricating thinking mind. And when one is willing, and the patience to wait for results and to be present in the sense of of being able to notice shifts and changes that are occurring as they are occurring. You know how you talk about somebody, they just not sensitive enough. You know, it's just developing a certain kind of sensitivity. And you can tell when it's happening because it becomes difficult to even speak to it. But there's a certain pregnancy in the, it's like the atmosphere shifts. So concentration has a presence. Can you, that you can feel it, you can know it. It has a presence. And depending upon how much you recognize its presence, it becomes formidable in your face. It's like right now, it's difficult for me to speak above a whisper because of the presence of this vast stillness that was always there. It was there 15 minutes ago. It was there when we came in. But now we are becoming aware of it. And it commands a certain kind of respect. And at the same time, it offers, it gives a certain kind of relief. It becomes difficult to even hold anything in your mind in that clinging, attaching sense. Like things matter and they don't matter. Just perfectly on that tightrope. And as the wind blows, you can lean a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right and just stay balanced on the tightrope. Trying to give some images so that you can recognize it as it occurs. So maybe that's not even the best word, concentration. You know, that's a translated word. Sometimes once we translate words, we just mess up the whole thing, you know, because now we lock it into something and then we're struggling to enter into that which we've, you know, we brought it down from its state and we've made it this, and now we're struggling to get into that made up this. So sometimes translated words, and then we're just trying to understand that translated word, and maybe that's not even the best word. But that which brings you to a place of perfect peace, equipoise, contentment, you could say. The mind. Contemplation, on the other hand, means to cultivate the correct knowledge and the correct mind. And so you see, it becomes difficult to cultivate correct knowledge and to cultivate the correct mind without a certain degree of what?
Concentration.
Yeah. Yeah. We all know about the monkey mind. Mind is just jumping. But you know, it's not just the monkey mind. You know, that's the grossest part. But to be able to think correctly, properly, usefully, with a fuller, at least, understanding of all of the causes and conditions and interplays, to be able to know how to think and speak and act in the world. You know, that's what concentration. I'm sorry. Yeah. That's what contemplation is. So that you can break through, you know, think about something a little bit deeper. On Tuesdays and Fridays, we listen to an imparting. And I listen to the comments that we share, like, what is this passage saying to you? You know, how do you use that in the real world? How is it slathering your mind, right? And I listen to the different comments that people make. And, you know, one person is seeing something on on this level. Someone is seeing that or understanding that information on this level, and somebody else is receiving and utilizing that same information from that same passage on this level, according to each individual's mind and experience. And sometimes, let's say that I'm getting something on this level. So I think, whoa, what they said is all right, but what I'm saying, that's deep, right? But when I hear that, I understand that unless I have that, I don't have the totality of the understanding. I just have this part, but I could be missing this part and missing this part. That's why some people can have such a heart for humanity. They want to do such good things, and they're always thinking about what they could do, but they're not disciplined in their behaviors. So they think nothing of, so they're not reliable, or they think nothing of using you because they think you can do it to do something for these people over here. They don't think that they're using you or taking advantage of you, stealing from you or whatever, because all they can see is the good work that they want to use your stuff for over here. You see, but because they don't have that balance, that pollutes this work that they try to do over here. And then they wonder, what's wrong? What's wrong? Why are things just not working for me? I do all this good. You see, so there are many different levels that we have to understand something. So we should never think that yes, there can be the penetration of something on a very deep level. That means that what's allowable for you to do might not be allowable for me to do. Or there can be something that I could do on my level of understanding, but because you have really penetrated to the truth of something in a certain regard, you can't do that thing. And because I haven't, I can do it. It was like when I was talking with Pannavati and I was saying, if somebody kicks in this door, you know, and was hypothetically, there was a gun right there that you could take it up and you could kill them to save my life because they were coming to kill me, would you do it? He said, I don't think so. He said, I wouldn't do it. I hadn't talked to him for a week, you know, because if roles were reversed, I felt like I could kill somebody to protect his life, you know. And you know, and I'm really thinking about such things now. What would I do? To what length will I go to preserve a life? I'm thinking about such things now. Now, I might think I would do it to preserve Panyadipa's life, but not the guy around the corner who I don't know. So you can see the attachment that's there, like me and mine. I'll save my life and I'll save the life of someone I know. The further away you get, like you start, don't rely on me, you know. I mean, so you can see that that sense of protection is tied into a certain attachment. It could be attachment for your countrymen, it could be attachment, you know. But you see the attachment there. Would I put myself on the line for your daughter the way I would for my own daughter? You know. Or if I had to choose, but you know, in a situation where I could only rescue one, who would I rescue? These are real questions. Now, you can't like just start answering a big question like that. You don't have the muscle for it. It starts with little things, little thoughts. That's how you contemplate. How do I really hold this truth? How do I really hold it? What am I really willing to stand behind? And you start to know yourself. And this step, this process of contemplation cannot be overlooked because that's what sets up the basis for your continual cultivation, your continual practice. So you have these 3 C's. You have, what's the first one? Concentration. What's the next one? And cultivation, right? So we're trying to do cultivation and we have no stability, you know, concentration. Our cultivation is going to be as flaky as our concentration. And it's going to be as unreliable as our contemplation. So if you're struggling, trying to walk in a continual authenticity, but you have not established the foundation of concentration, and you don't build and develop it through contemplation, it's impossible. To have correct cultivation. It's impossible. So I wanted to have this kind of talk today, just to kind of help you appreciate and have a bigger view of concentration, so that you could establish a right foundation. I know this is elementary for some of you. This is going back to be, okay, we were past that part. We were on the part where you have access concentration and where you're seeing things in your meditation. I get all of that. Let's just jump up to there, because I could do that in a blink. I can be, but this is the part that's most important. The foundation. You can build they got miracle materials and stuff now, and you can build apartment buildings like putting together Legos. You just snap and peel, snap into place, and the edifice just goes up. But that foundation still, even though they've come up with some forms and this and that, that foundation has to be right to carry ultimately the weight of the building that you put up. And so, foundation. But once it's in place, it determines how high your building can go. I want to stop right there, because I don't want it to just be talk. I do want you to be able to take these three and to see their relationship to each other, and to be clear on the difference between concentration and contemplation. Now, I'll just say this in ending. Contemplation has to have it's built upon language. In other words, while language is insufficient, you have to start with something. But because you start with something, doesn't mean that you continue with something. You start, it's like the starter on your car. You have to turn that sucker to get the motor to turn over, or however that makes it work. So go, but then once the motor turns, what happens? What do you have to do before you can drive? But before that, yeah, you can't keep cranking it up, or you're gonna burn it out. You cannot keep cranking it up. The minute it catches you, you let go of that key. The minute it catches, you see what I'm talking about? All Buddha Dharma can be seen through our worldly stuff. We don't have to have special vision to understand Buddha Dharma. It's just like that. You turn the key long enough for the connection, and then you take your hand off. It kicks, it has its own intrinsic capacity. and it will start to work on you. Oh boy, yeah. We really are going to get to actual meditation soon, but I want you to get these principles down, because you have to remember them when you get in the middle of this and the mind wants to take control and start guiding and governing this process. If you don't, the mind will take over, and you'll keep doing what you've always done, and you'll keep getting what you have always gotten. Are there any questions on this? Yes.
I'm wondering if it's helpful in one sense to look at the three C's as kind of a linear progression, but also that there's a feedback that happens. Because I remember, I don't remember whether it was you or Deepa years ago was saying that if you're stuck at a certain point in your meditation practice, in your concentration, you need to look to how you're living your life, how you're cultivating, because that in fact is gonna also affect, it's gonna come back and move around and affect your concentration.
Absolutely. You know, this is a circular thing. It's more like slinky, you know. It's like a slinky. Buddha Master said that we advance and decline in our virtue, in our progress every day, you know, continually advancing and declining. I mean, I can be in a good space, and one negative thought come into my mind that just trashes, you know, that just trashes my mind. And in that moment, I have fallen. So there's this continual, that's why he calls it continual practice, a constant feedback loop. The thing is, though, that when we recognize that we've fallen, that was the purpose of looking, is to recognize. It's not to latch on to and flagellate, it's to recognize. Recognizing allows changing the behavior and stepping back into the right-mindedness is recognition. So recognition can really hurt our feelings in the beginning if we don't have an understanding of the purpose and the benefit of recognizing, you know. But we can recognize what state we're in. We can apply an antidote. If we don't recognize it, we don't apply an antidote until we're like so far vectored off, it's hard to get back on course, you know. And then we feel guilty and bad about it. But he's saying just instantly recognize course correct. Instantly recognize course correct. Just recognize course correct. You know, oh, you shouldn't think like that. That's an unwholesome thought. And so what happens is that some people who get this are constantly course correcting, while somebody who witnessed, because they were looking at another's thoughts and speech and action, comparing it to how they thought the person should think, speak, and do, you know, they're left out there thinking she's over there by now, and I'm over here because I course corrected. This is course correction, just constantly like that. So it is not just linear, as you say, but it is also circular. And each one feeds into or feeds the other, you know, impacts the other positively or negatively. I tell you, my day is so full. You said, what does a monk do all day? You know, I mean, like, ain't got no job, you know, like you're not worrying about your family, you know, so what do we do all day long? My mind is sifting through what I've said or what I've done or what I've thought to see if that was the highest and the best, conduct all day long, And today I might think it is. By this evening, if I review that same thing, I think something else comes to mind opening. Another way I could have held it, Or I think of some teaching and then you start having what some people call serendipity, but I don't believe in serendipity. I just believe in cause and effect. So we'll be talking about something, or I'll dream about something, or I'll think about something. And next thing I know, we'll see this thinking about it too. She's sending me, Venerable, look what I found, or she's saying, that's the same thing I'm thinking about, and what it is, though, it's a clarification of how I was thinking. It's something that puts me, my helps come from everywhere, constantly helps are coming to us because we've set up that kind of mind, running into an old friend, meeting a new friend. It's just, at one time, we called this the practice of practices, this lineage, practices and blessings, but now that's gotten too low level to even call it practices and blessings now, you know. It's just Buddhism,
It's just
the bind of an awakened one. That's all it is, Practices and blessings starts to not be good enough to define it, but you start to abide in this kind of environment that you are completely enveloped in the blessings. I mean, you recognize them, and you are deeply grateful for them. But it gets to a place that it even goes beyond gratitude, because gratitude is self-cherishing, some of these things are hard to talk about, and so you start moving out of the feeling about them, and it just is how your life is. And then you can start to have enjoyments. Can you believe it? In Buddhism, you can have enjoyments. Enjoyment. It's not all this toil and struggle and touch not, taste not, handle not, do not, but the enjoyments because you're not attached to them. It's just like, I shouldn't say catch and, I'll say like pick up and let go. I won't say catch and release anymore. See how I'm growing? From a former great fisherman, there was still that thing there, but now catch and release is, because and I'm through, even when you catch a fish and release them, once you touch them, you hurt them. Yeah, you infect their body, once you catch them, to catch them, you have to catch them, I know how I would feel if somebody put a hook in my jaw.
Their mouth is the most sensitive place in their body.
Yeah. And so now it's hard for me to even use the metaphor catch and release, but that's just, the sensitivity that comes as you grow. Yeah. And with that sensitivity can come feelings, but it goes beyond feelings at a certain point. And you start seeing that feelings is kind of like a low-level thing. It really is. But some people have no feelings. Get feelings first. but after a while, it goes beyond feelings. So I'm having these thoughts, and now we're really closing, if somebody will close us out. So I'm having these thoughts about sentience and insentience, you know? And I'm not, Buddhas, they're not sentient. Then a whole different category and classification of being, whole different one. But we like cling so tightly to our sentience, yeah.
I wonder what the root SEN means.
Mhm.
Need a new Myers-Briggs.
Because the SEN,
SEN.
he does a lot of work on us in sense gates and sensory perception and all of that. That's in the field of illusion. That's all I'm saying about that. That's not that's the same as being cold and detached, but it's something more than that. If you can kind of feel into it, you start to see how insufficient our feelings are they're not excellent. And when you start striving for excellence, you look for the highest manifestation of something. That's why he deals with us on the top end about feeling, But if you're not ready for that, don't worry about it. I'm just saying. Yeah. It says in closing out in Hamlet, there's more Horatio. Than
It was more
that your little mind.
than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
Yeah.
More things under heaven.
More things in heaven and earth that can be dreamt of in your philosophies.
I think
Yes.
one thing that about that question about thought, to deepen into the mind, like think about a microscope. Like if you look at something at 10x, there's a lot more going on. If you hit it with 100x, whoo, now we're at the point where they're smashing worlds together to look at. You know what I mean? That's what these Haldon collages do. But the thing is, that mind behind the mind can access all of that. One thing I've been thinking about lately that you've been encouraging us on Tuesdays and Fridays is like, how do we refine the causes and conditions to allow the penetration? Because that's not so much us. We're tinkering with it. We did a pickling class at work on Monday or whatever, and like you gotta have, if the vegetables are cut, you gotta pre-salt them. If they're not cut, it's a different salt ratio. What kind of bacteria do you want to let in there? Do you want to pick it at the fruit of the essence, or do you want it a little soft? A lot goes just into pickling well, right? And the Dharma's like that. Like we look and we contemplate so we can really understand all of these things. And the concentration, it can't come if there is no cultivation. I know that full stop from myself. So we have to keep working all of these things. And then these great yogis, they can control their sweat, their breath, stop the whole thing. And it's for sure not sense information that's doing that. It's access to some, I don't know, part of the control box that ain't that.
Yeah, and just because we can't name it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right?
For sure.
Just because Webster didn't give us a word.
The other thing that's rising is that when Milarepa went to Marpa, like he didn't start teaching them meditation. Like he made him build I don't know how many towers because he knew like cause and condition. He had to
Mhm.
karma before he could go where he had to go. And that's how the wisdom of really being with a teacher who can show you the work that has to be done on the different levels.
Thank you. It was hard to stop meditation for 3 years, you know? Everybody want to meditate because they think that's the answer, that's the solution. But we had to go back and build a foundation, which I think we have done, you know? And so now we're ready to step in. Yeah.
May the merit from our time here and all of our efforts continuously, may it be for those who have given their lives for us, those who clothed us, fed us, made the streets, built the homes, the food. May it all go back to them. May our practice be seen as repaying kindness and do everything for the benefit of others.
Thank all of you that were online today. Blessings.